Hey everybody, I am so excited about today's video because we get to hear all of the answers to a survey I sent out to med students across the country that had just one question. What's the best, most helpful piece of advice that you got as a pre-med that helped you applying to or going through med school? I actually got so many responses that I have to break this up into two parts, which is a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful. Some of these responses are funny, some are serious, and all of them are things that I wish I'd known as a pre-med or like known more fully as a pre-med. And be sure to watch to the end because I saved some of my favorite responses for last. Before we get going, don't forget to subscribe and share with your medically inclined friends and family. Now let's get going. First, let's start with the one with the biggest, most positive cheerleader vibes. I don't know what cheerleaders do, is that right? Sorry, Mom. First one reads like this. Know that regardless of where you attend, you will learn everything that is necessary to become an amazing physician. Oh, bless the person that wrote that. Yes, just because you don't go to Hopkins or Harvard doesn't mean that you won't be an amazing physician. Completely agree with this. And here's another one that's also really positive, and love that for us. The right attitude is the best way. It sounds like a cereal commercial, like the best way to start your day with Frosted Flakes. It kind of has that vibe, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, the right attitude is the best way to approach any day that may seem overwhelming or stressful. Doing what you can to make the most of your situation can bring some light to your day and motivate you. Yes, it can. We love to see this positivity. Now, I know we all now have some warm fuzzies from those first two, but we're gonna take it down a notch and switch gears to responses that talked about studying, because understandably, that's something that a lot of pre-meds worry about going into med school. This student said, learn how to effectively study for long periods of time! Exclamation point. Yeah, yep. No comment on that. And to expand on that a little bit though, here's someone else said, quote, treat your med school like a job. Check in and out every day at the same time. For example, study between 8 and 4. Your free time is more important than you think, and oftentimes fewer, more productive hours are more beneficial than countless hours of studying. This doesn't mean that you should necessarily study from 8 to 4 in undergrad if you don't need to. Basically just introduce yourself to long periods of studying, like 8+ hours at a time, every so often to see what it's like and to see if you can handle doing that on an almost daily basis in med school. And then, of course, there are several responses about the application cycle because it is truly a wild process. One student says, show, don't tell, in regards to writing aspects of your application and interviews. Yes, yes, so much yes. I'm on the admissions committee at my school, and honestly, it's more impressive, way more impressive, to see how applicants have learned and grown from their experiences in a well-written story form that's like fun and entertaining to read, rather than just summarizing what's on your activities and work experience sections of your application. And another student says, your application is how medical schools are going to get to know you, and it is worth all the time you spend on it! Exclamation point. Yes. Try to show yourself off as much as you can. You've done a lot of awesome things and need to share them. Moving forward to interviews, know your application and your personal statement backwards and forwards because you probably will get asked about them. Completely agree with that response. Very true. A lot of people are like, oh, I haven't done anything cool. Like, I'm boring. No, everyone's got unique things that make them them. You just have to see them for what they are, not play the comparison game, and tell your story. If you like wrote about something in your personal statement and then they ask you about it and you're like, oh yeah, and then you kind of like didn't really remember that you even wrote about that in your personal statement, that's a red flag. You don't want to do that. No, like know what you wrote and be prepared to like talk about that more in depth. Another student says, apply early, all caps, and 2 exclamation points, so you know they mean it. I have a couple of friends that applied late July/August, and even the fall, instead of the month the application opened, June. And despite being qualified applicants, they never got an interview. If you are not ready to apply in June, wait another year. When applying to medical school, apply to your in-state schools if you have any. You have significantly higher odds of getting into schools in your area because a lot of them have commitments to training in-state residents. Keep your mind open when applying to schools. I genuinely did not want to go to the school I attend before I interviewed here because I hadn't known anyone personally that attended. It wasn't in the area that I wanted to be in, and the website seemed kind of spare in information. I almost didn't even go to the interview because the flight was expensive. I ended up crying after my interview of happiness because I enjoyed the school so much and learned so much more about how it matched with my values after interview day. So yeah, give every school a chance. Oh my gosh, whoever wrote that in, I just bless them. I am so happy for them. I feel that. I had a similar experience to this person, actually. I didn't cry necessarily, but after the interview at the school that I'm attending, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my place and these are my people. Like, that's it. It was end of story. Definitely don't write off a school before you've done your due diligence on it, talked to current students, and hopefully interviewed there. I mean, once COVID's over, hopefully. And a really important point, don't forget, this student reminds all the pre-meds, there is nothing wrong with taking a gap year, and it can really help you grow as an applicant and a person. Also, be patient with yourself. The application cycle is grueling, and it can take a long time to hear back from schools. Honestly, I could not agree more with that. I took a gap year myself, and I absolutely needed it, and it was a good move for me. Now, it's not a perfect move for everyone, but no one can judge you for taking a gap year. Most people do these days anyway. Most people don't get in their first cycle, and that is perfectly fine. If medicine is really what you want to do, then it will be more than worth the wait and effort to apply the next cycle. Now, here are some responses that more pre-meds and even med students, myself included, need to take more seriously. Best advice for going through med school is being patient with myself when learning something difficult and knowing when to stop studying when I'm mentally exhausted. This means making time each day to take care of my health and wellness and doing something I enjoy for my own sanity. You'll realize very soon how it's the little things that make you happiest, so hang on to that. Oh, love. Another good one. Invest in your emotional health. That's a thing. Emotional health is a real thing. It sounds like hippy dippy, but it's not. It's real. Discover what is uniquely important to you and then prioritize that. If it's sleep, awesome. Exercise, great. Family, super. Life only gets crazier, and these are the things that you will turn to. These are things that I've talked about in a couple of other videos, including my week in the life of a med student and how I study 80 hours a week and not burn out videos. Specifically being honest with yourself about when you need a break and identifying what recharges you when you're feeling exhausted, both physically and mentally. Those two things are key to success in medical school. Oh man, oh man, when this one first came through and I read it, I was like, yes. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutally honest. I'm just gonna read it, Kate. Quote, F research, community service is a much better use of your time. I love the honesty. We're here for it. I mean, they're not wrong. If you're not applying or wanting to go to one of the big research powerhouses like UCSF or Stanford or Hopkins, then person's not wrong at all. They're on point. A lot of institutions are realizing that research is, first of all, really difficult for undergrads to do during COVID. It all gets interrupted when you can't do things in person. And research isn't necessarily a fabulous indicator of future student success. However, a track record of commitment to service and community volunteerism is often more valuable in student development of good physician characteristics such as compassion and empathy. Okay, let's finish up with one of my favorite responses. I mean, they're kind of all favorites, but like, whatever. So this student suggests, study something that genuinely interests you in college, not the major that you think will prepare you for medical school. You literally can study, all caps, anything, and you'll probably be on a similar standing of knowing nothing as the person who spent 4 years learning biochemistry. I have no regrets studying something totally unrelated to medicine. I think it has helped me become better equipped to address the humanistic sides of medicine, which is important. So I'll admit I am biased for good reason here because I studied exercise and wellness as well as gerontology in undergrad, and that had very little as far as classes overlapping with medical school prerequisites. But I wouldn't change the major I chose for anything. Because like the student said, studying other subjects makes you a well-rounded person. You bring a unique perspective to your medical school class. And with such an emphasis on diversity, that's really important. We don't need a million biology majors. We want people from all walks of life, all backgrounds. To be honest, the only time I've ever seen an admissions committee comment on someone's major is when they're like, oh my gosh, look, so unique. They studied international business and double minored in Portuguese and, I don't know, underwater basket weaving. And that's a positive thing. That's a standout thing for that applicant. And that's it. We went through a ton of responses. We just went through some of the best pieces of advice that current med students from across the country have for pre-meds and incoming med students. I am so grateful to all of those who responded. Y'all are so insightful and funny. A bunch of stuff that I would have never even thought about and had never even really considered as a pre-med. So if you found this helpful, leave a like down below. Remember to subscribe to show support and to help this information and advice get out to other pre-meds. And be sure to share with those pre-med and med student friends. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you next week for part 2.